First contact fears. The research vessel Eternal Curiosity hung in high orbit above Earth, its crystalline sensors drinking in data about the blue-green world below. Science Director Vixna adjusted her atmospheric filters, the delicate membranes behind her ears fluttering as she processed the latest readings from the surface. After 3 cycles of observation, she still couldn't quite believe what her instruments were telling her. "High Command won't believe this report," she muttered, her iridescent scales shifting from their usual calm blue to an agitated purple. "They'll think we've been breathing too much methane." Her second-in-command, data analyst Kretok, bobbed his elongated head in agreement. His species' natural ability to process vast amounts of information made him invaluable for their research mission, but even he seemed overwhelmed by their findings. "Director, I've cross-referenced the data 17 times, he said, his 4 eyes blinking in sequence. "The readings are consistent. These humans, they're conducting combat training in atmospheric conditions that would incapacitate most species, and they're doing it recreationally." Vixna glided across the observation deck, her hover field humming softly as she approached the main viewing screen. The display showed multiple feeds from their surface probes, each one more bewildering than the last. In one, humans were running. Actually running. In what their databases identified as a marathon. In another, individuals were lifting masses far beyond what should be safe for their bone structure. And in the most disturbing feed, humans were engaging in something called mixed martial arts. "Play that one again," she ordered, pointing a scaled finger at the combat footage. Full analysis. The screen expanded, showing 2 humans circling each other in an enclosed space. Their vital signs appeared in floating diagrams beside them: heart rates, muscle tension, bone density. What struck Vixna wasn't just their willingness to engage in physical combat, but the sheer efficiency of their movements. "These aren't even their warriors," Kretok noted, his voice trembling slightly. "According to their public records, one is a software engineer and the other sells something called real estate." Vixna's scales rippled with disbelief. "You mean to tell me that these are civilians engaging in combat training at this level?" "Affirmative. And Director, this is what they consider basic training." The implications made her hover field flutter. On her homeworld, physical combat was reserved for the warrior caste, individuals specially bred and augmented for military service. The idea of ordinary citizens casually engaging in such activities was unsettling. "Show me their professional military training," she ordered. Kretok's manipulators danced across the control surface, and new images filled the screen. The footage showed human military exercises, and the intensity made everyone on the observation deck take an involuntary step back. Soldiers running with heavy packs through terrain that would challenge most species' environmental suits. Combat drills that combined strength, speed, and tactical thinking in ways that seemed almost impossible. "Their gravity," Vixna whispered. "They evolved under these conditions, nearly twice the gravitational pull of our homeworld. Their bones, their muscles, everything about them is adapted to function under constant pressure we would consider crushing." A new alert flashed across their screens. One of their probes had detected an unusual gathering at something called a CrossFit Games. The footage showed hundreds of humans gathered to watch others perform feats of strength and endurance that bordered on the supernatural. "Director," one of the junior analysts called out, their voice quavering. "I've been studying their entertainment media. They make games out of this. They compete to see who can endure the most physical stress. For fun." Vixna felt her scales shifting to a deep indigo, the color of profound concern. She had studied numerous species across the galaxy, but humans seemed to defy every conventional understanding of evolutionary development. Most species evolved to avoid physical stress and danger. Humans seemed to actively seek it out. "What about their children?" she asked, dreading the answer. Kretok pulled up new footage, showing human younglings in various athletic activities. Some were learning combat moves in structured classes. Others were climbing on metal structures, swinging from bars, or engaged in high-speed pursuits of spherical objects. They start training them early, he reported. These activities are considered normal childhood development. They call some of them sports and playground games. Vixna watched as a small human child fell, scraped their external protection layer, skin, according to their database, then got up and continued playing as if nothing had happened. The resilience was terrifying. "Update the species threat assessment," she ordered, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. "And mark this as urgent for High Command's attention." "What classification should I list?" Kreetok asked. Vixna considered the question carefully. The humans hadn't shown any aggressive intentions toward other species. In fact, their limited space exploration suggested they weren't even aware of the broader galactic community. But their casual relationship with activities that most species would consider extreme combat training couldn't be ignored. List them as Deathworld species, extreme capability, she decided, and add a note: caution. Standard human capabilities exceed military-grade augmentation of most known species. Recreational activities include combat training considered extreme by galactic standards. Recommend diplomatic approach with extreme respect for human physical capabilities. As she finished dictating her report, a new alert caught her attention. A human athletic event called a triathlon was starting. The participants would swim through cold water, pedal mechanical devices over long distances, and then run, all voluntarily, all in succession. "We need to understand them better," Vixna announced to her crew. "Not just their capabilities, but their psychology. What kind of species turns survival challenges into entertainment? What makes them actively seek out physical stress?" "Perhaps," Kreetok suggested, his 4 eyes focused on the screens, "that's exactly why they're so formidable. They don't just survive adversity, they embrace it." Vixna watched as the triathlon participants dove into the water, their movements powerful and purposeful. These humans, these incredible beings who treated physical challenges as entertainment, who trained their bodies for combat, as casually as their species studied stellar phenomena, were about to enter the galactic stage. "Send a priority message to the diplomatic corps," she ordered. "Tell them we found something unprecedented, and tell them to send their best negotiators. We're going to need them." As the Eternal Curiosity continued its orbit, gathering more data about this remarkable species, Vixna couldn't shake the feeling that the galaxy was about to change dramatically. Humanity was coming, and nothing would ever be quite the same again. The Academy visit. 3 standard cycles after the initial observations of Earth, the Galactic Diplomatic Corps found themselves facing an unprecedented challenge. Following Science Director Vixna's report, a formal first contact delegation was deemed necessary. Leading this delicate mission was Ambassador Genro, a veteran diplomat known for his unflappable demeanor. The delegation's first scheduled visit was to a facility called West Point Military Academy. As their shuttle descended through Earth's atmosphere, Genro reviewed the briefing materials for the 100th time, his crystalline appendages clicking nervously. "Remember," he addressed his team, "we're here to observe their military training facility. According to our intelligence, this is where they shape their average citizens into warriors." The pause before average carried volumes of uncertainty. Security Attaché Miravax, a towering figure whose species was considered physically imposing by most galactic standards, shifted uncomfortably in her reinforced seat. "Ambassador, I've reviewed the preliminary strength assessments. Their baseline requirements for entry into this academy exceed our Special Forces' enhanced capabilities." The shuttle touched down on a pristine landing pad, where a group of humans waited to greet them. The delegation's environmental suits adjusted automatically to Earth's crushing gravity, but even with the assistance, several members noticeably struggled to maintain their posture. Colonel Sarah Chen stepped forward to greet them, her uniform crisp and movements precise. "Ambassador Genro, welcome to West Point. We're honored to host the first official galactic delegation to a human military institution. Zhenro's translator processed her words as his sensory organs took in the surrounding environment. The academy grounds sprawled before them, filled with young humans engaged in various training activities. In the distance, a group ran in formation, carrying heavy packs that would have crushed most species' exoskeletons. "The honor is ours," he responded diplomatically. "We're particularly interested in understanding your training methods for your—" He searched for the right word, cadets. Colonel Chen's smile carried a hint of pride. "Of course, we'll start with morning physical training. Our first-year cadets are just beginning their day." The delegation followed her to an open field where hundreds of young humans were engaged in what they termed basic calisthenics. Zhenro's environmental suit sensors struggled to process the energy readings from the mass of moving bodies. "These exercises," Colonel Chen explained, gesturing to the cadets performing various movements, "are just warm-ups, standard morning routine." Miravax's combat analysis systems were working overtime. "Warm-ups," she whispered to the ambassador. "Their muscle tension readings are already exceeding safe limits for most species." They watched as the cadets transitioned seamlessly from one exercise to another. Push-ups, sprints, something called burpees, that seemed designed to maximize physical stress in minimal time. None of the humans showed signs of distress. "And these are all unaugmented humans?" Zhenro asked carefully. Colonel Chen looked puzzled for a moment. "Augmented? Oh, you mean enhanced? No enhancements allowed at the academy. We need to evaluate natural capabilities first. Enhancements come later, for specialized roles." The delegation exchanged alarmed glances. These were natural capabilities. The tour continued to an obstacle course that looked more like a survival gauntlet. Cadets navigated high walls, crossed water hazards, and crawled under electrified wire. The most shocking part wasn't the course itself, but the enthusiasm with which the humans attacked it. "This is where we build both physical capability and problem-solving skills," Colonel Chen explained. "Every cadet must complete this course within standard times." "And if they fail?" Miravax asked. "They try again, and again, until they succeed." Chen's matter-of-fact tone made it clear this was considered perfectly normal. The delegation watched as a cadet fell from a rope climb. Instead of seeking medical attention, she simply got up, dusted herself off, and started again. The aliens' biosensors detected pain indicators, but the humans' determination never wavered. During a demonstration of hand-to-hand combat techniques, Miravax's security protocols triggered 3 separate alarm conditions. The speed and power of the movements exceeded her species' combat parameters, yet the instructors kept referring to these as basic forms. "Ambassador," she sub-vocalized through their private channel. "These humans, their standard training protocols would qualify as extreme combat techniques in any other military force I've encountered." Zhenro could only nod, his crystalline structure vibrating with concern. They were led to a classroom next, where cadets were engaged in tactical studies. The problems they were solving casually incorporated physical challenges that would incapacitate most species. "This simulation," a tactical instructor explained, pointing to a holographic display, "requires cadets to calculate optimal assault vectors while accounting for environmental hazards, enemy positions, and team dynamics. They then execute the mission physically on our training grounds." "They perform these calculations while under physical stress?" Zhenro asked. "Of course," Chen replied. "They need to think clearly in all conditions. That's basic officer training." The day concluded with a demonstration of what the Academy called Ranger training. The delegation watched in stunned silence as cadets conducted complex military operations in conditions that their environmental suits classified as extremely hostile. Back on their shuttle, preparing to depart, Zhenro gathered his thoughts for his report to the diplomatic corps. How could he explain that what humans considered basic military training exceeded the capabilities of most species' elite forces. Ambassador, Miravax said quietly, I need to update our security protocols. These humans, their standard training produces warriors that could overwhelm any conventional defense force in the galaxy. Genro stared out at the academy grounds, where cadets were still training as night fell. No, Miravax, he replied. We need to do more than update protocols. We need to completely reassess our understanding of human capabilities. And more importantly, he paused, watching a group of cadets running past their shuttle, singing in unison despite their obvious exhaustion. We need to ensure we never give them reason to view us as adversaries. As their shuttle lifted off, Genro couldn't help but wonder. If this was just a training academy for their youth, what were their actual military forces capable of? The thought sent a shiver through his crystalline form. The galaxy was not prepared for humanity, not by any measure they had previously used. The friendly competition. Following the eye-opening visit to West Point, the Galactic Council decided to arrange what they termed a cultural exchange event, a diplomatic euphemism for what they truly wanted: a controlled assessment of human physical capabilities. The venue chosen was the newly constructed Interspecies Athletic Center in Geneva, a facility designed to accommodate beings from across the galaxy. Ambassador Genro stood in the observation gallery, his crystalline form refracting the morning sunlight as he watched the preparations below. Beside him, Fleet Commander Axar of the Drachnid Empire shifted nervously, his scales catching the light. Are you certain this is wise, Ambassador? Axar asked, his translator struggling to convey his concern. The Drachnid Empire has always prided itself on our physical prowess, but these humans. That's precisely why we need this event, Genro replied. Better to understand their capabilities in a friendly setting than to discover them in less pleasant circumstances. The facility below had been divided into various testing stations, each designed to measure different aspects of physical capability. The human delegation, led by Dr. Sarah Martinez, seemed almost apologetic as they arrived. I hope you understand, Dr. Martinez began. We've selected participants from various backgrounds. Athletes, office workers, students, to give you a fair representation of average human capabilities. Average. The word made Genro's crystalline structure vibrate with anxiety. Their previous observations had thoroughly destroyed their understanding of average when it came to humans. The first event was a simple strength test. The Drachnid champion, cybernetically enhanced as was standard for their military, stepped forward confidently. The task: lift and hold a progressively weighted bar. The Drachnid performed admirably, holding steady at 400 standard units, an impressive display that drew appreciative murmurs from the alien delegates. Then Kelly Chen, a human accountant who did some weightlifting on weekends, stepped up. Should we adjust the gravity compensators for her? One of the alien technicians asked. No need, Kelly replied cheerfully. This is about baseline capabilities, right? What followed caused several alien delegates to activate their emergency stabilization fields. The human not only matched the Drachnid's lift but proceeded to engage in what she called a warm-up set. Remarkable, whispered scientist observer Nix, their sensory appendages twitching. And you say she's not a professional strength athlete? Oh no, Dr. Martins replied. Kelly just enjoys staying fit. You should see our actual powerlifters. The endurance tests proved even more disturbing to the alien observers. While most species representatives required rest periods between events, the humans seemed to gain energy as the challenges continued. They called it getting warmed up. The climbing wall was particularly revealing. The Ventari delegate, with their naturally adhesive appendages, had set what was thought to be an unbeatable time. Then Maiko Kanjo, a high school physics teacher, scaled it using what the humans called basic technique. But how? The Ventari delegate sputtered. Your species has no natural climbing adaptations. Mike shrugged, chalk dust floating from his hands. I boulder at the gym 3 times a week. Helps me clear my head after grading papers. The water trials nearly caused a diplomatic incident. The Aquarian representatives, naturally adapted for aquatic environments, watched in disbelief as human recreational swimmers matched their speed in what the humans considered sprint distances. They're not even using breathing apparatus, one Aquarian observer noted, their fin crests rippling with agitation. They're just holding their breath. "Oh yeah," responded Tom Williams, a plumber who competed in weekend triathlons. "But this is nothing. You should see the free divers." As the day progressed, patterns emerged that deeply disturbed the alien observers. The humans weren't just performing well. They were treating these extreme physical challenges as routine. They chatted casually between events, discussed their weekend plans, and seemed genuinely puzzled by the aliens' amazement. The breaking point came during the environmental adaptation tests. The chamber was designed to simulate various planetary conditions. The aliens watched in horror as the humans voluntarily entered environments that would have required full protective gear for most species. "Are they aware the temperature is approaching their body's thermal limits?" asked a concerned Perillian observer, their flame form flickering anxiously. "Oh, they know," Dr. Martins replied. "They just call it good training weather." During a brief recess, Ambassador Genro huddled with his fellow delegates, all of them processing what they'd witnessed. "These are their civilians," Fleet Commander Axar said, his voice barely a whisper. "They're ordinary citizens, doing these things for recreation." "Indeed," Genro replied. "And notice how they support each other. They compete, yes, but there's no animosity. They seem to genuinely enjoy testing their limits." The final event was something the humans called an obstacle course race. The aliens watched in stunned silence as their human counterparts navigated challenges that combined strength, endurance, agility, and problem-solving, all while maintaining what they termed conversation pace. As the day drew to a close, Dr. Martinez approached the alien delegation with what appeared to be concern. "I hope we haven't overwhelmed anyone," she said. "We tried to keep things at a recreational level." Genro's translator nearly crashed trying to process the implication that what they'd witnessed was recreational. His response was diplomatic but strained. "Dr. Martinez, I believe we've all learned something valuable today about different species' definitions of recreation." Later, in his private report to the Galactic Council, Genro struggled to convey the implications of what they'd witnessed. How could he explain that human recreational activities exceeded most species' emergency survival capabilities? That their casual athletes outperformed enhanced warriors? That they seemed to genuinely enjoy activities that would qualify as extreme endurance tests in most cultures? In conclusion, he wrote, "I must emphasize that what we witnessed today was, by human standards, unremarkable. They consider these activities leisure pursuits. The implications for their actual military capabilities are concerning. I strongly recommend continued diplomatic engagement and immediate classification of humanity as a Class A physical capability species. Most importantly, we must never, under any circumstances, give them reason to view our physical limitations as a vulnerability to be exploited." As he finished his report, Genro received a message from Dr. Martinez. She was inviting the delegation to observe something called an Ironman Triathlon next month. "It's a fun little endurance event," she wrote. "Nothing too serious." Genro's crystalline structure shuddered involuntarily. The galaxy was not ready for humanity's definition of fun. Crisis response. The emergency alert reached the Galactic Council's Crisis Response Center during third shift. The mining colony on Heavy World Beta, a high-gravity planet on the outer rim, had suffered a catastrophic seismic event. 3,000 colonists were trapped, and the environmental conditions made conventional rescue operations impossible. Director Caxven of Emergency Operations stared at the holographic display, his tentacles writhing in distress. "The gravity well is 2.3 times galactic standard. None of our rescue teams can function effectively in those conditions." That's when Ambassador Genro, who had been quietly observing, stepped forward. There might be one species that can help. 6 hours later, the USS Mercy, an Earth emergency response vessel, dropped out of FTL near Heavy World Beta. Captain Elena Rodriguez stood on the bridge, reviewing environmental data as her crew prepared for deployment. "Listen up," she addressed her team through the ship's comm. "We've got 3,000 civilians trapped in underground habitats. Local gravity is 2.3 times Earth normal. Temperature at the surface is pushing 40 Celsius. This is what we train for, people." The alien observers aboard the ship watched in stunned silence as the human rescue teams began their equipment checks. No powered exoskeletons, no gravity compensators, just reinforced gear and determination. "Captain," Caxven interrupted, his translator struggling to convey his concern. "Surely your team needs time to acclimate to these conditions. The gravity alone." "With respect, Director," Rodriguez cut in, "we train in worse conditions than this. Time is critical. We're going in." The first human response team hit the surface running. Actually running. In gravity that would have pinned most species to the ground. Their vital signs, monitored by increasingly agitated alien medical officers, showed elevated but stable readings. "First collapse is 300 meters ahead," team leader Marcus Chen reported, his voice steady despite carrying 80 kilos of rescue gear. "Picking up life signs beneath the rubble. Beginning extraction." What followed left the alien observers questioning their understanding of physical possibilities. The human teams worked tirelessly, cutting through collapsed structures, stabilizing failing support beams, and carrying injured colonists to safety. They operated with practiced efficiency in conditions that their own species considered nearly unsurvivable. "How are they doing this?" Caxven whispered to Genro, watching as two human rescuers lifted a support beam that would have required powered assistance for any other species. "This is what they're best at," Genro replied, "pushing beyond normal limits when others need help." Hour after hour, the humans pressed on. When the first team showed signs of fatigue, they didn't retreat. They simply rotated positions and continued working. Their medical teams treated the injured while dealing with the crushing gravity, their movements precise despite the extreme conditions. A secondary collapse brought new urgency to the situation. Without hesitation, 3 human rescuers dove into a narrowing gap to reach trapped colonists, ignoring the dangers of shifting debris and toxic gas leaks. "Their endurance is impossible," the alien medical officer reported, checking the humans' bioreadings for the 100th time. "They should have reached physical failure hours ago." Captain Rodriguez, who had joined her teams on the surface, just smiled grimly. "We don't stop when we're tired, Doctor. We stop when everyone is safe." 28 hours into the operation, something remarkable happened. As news of the rescue spread, human ships from nearby sectors began arriving. Not military vessels or official response teams, civilian ships, mining crews, construction workers, even a group of amateur cave explorers volunteered to help. "I don't understand," Caxven said, watching as more humans geared up to join the effort. "These aren't even emergency personnel. Why are they here?" "Because they can help," Rodriguez explained simply. "And for humans, that's enough reason to try." The alien observers struggled to process what they were seeing. Humans from all walks of life, working in conditions that should have been debilitating, driven by nothing more than the need to help others. Their bodies strained against the crushing gravity, but their resolve never wavered. By the time the last colonist was evacuated, the humans had been working for 40 hours straight. The alien medical team's report would later be flagged as potentially erroneous due to the documented physical achievements being classified as theoretically impossible. In the aftermath, as the rescue teams finally allowed themselves to rest, Captain Rodriguez found herself cornered by curious alien officials. "Your people," Caxven began carefully. "They exceeded every known limitation of biological entities. How do you train for such conditions?" Rodriguez considered the question. Honestly, most of what we did here was pretty standard rescue work. Sure, the gravity was tough, but humans have always adapted to help others. It's kind of our thing. Later, in his report to the Galactic Council, Director Caxven struggled to convey what he had witnessed. The humans' response to this crisis reveals capabilities beyond our previous assessments. Their physical resilience, while remarkable, is overshadowed by something far more significant: their instinctive drive to help others at any cost to themselves. This combination of capability and determination makes them uniquely valuable as emergency responders throughout the galaxy. He added a personal note: "We must reconsider our emergency response protocols. The humans have demonstrated that what we considered impossible may simply be a matter of perspective." And determination. The Council's response was swift. Within a month, they had established the first human emergency response initiative, inviting Earth to train and lead crisis response teams throughout the galaxy. The humans accepted eagerly, seeing it as an opportunity to help on a larger scale. As for Captain Rodriguez and her crew, they were already preparing for their next mission, treating the entire episode as just another day's work. When asked about their extraordinary performance on Heavy World Beta, most of them simply shrugged and said some variation of, "Anyone would have done the same." The aliens were beginning to understand. For humans, the impossible was just another challenge to overcome, especially when others needed help. The new alliance. The Grand Chamber of the Galactic Council hummed with nervous energy as representatives from 100 worlds gathered for what would become a historic session. At the center of attention stood Admiral Sarah Chen, Earth's military liaison to the Council, her presence both reassuring and intimidating to the assembled delegates. High Counselor Vex Nar, their luminescent form pulsing with diplomatic gravitas, called the session to order. "We are here today to discuss the proposed Galactic Defense Initiative. Recent events have made it clear that our traditional approaches to security and crisis response need renovation." The chamber's holoprojectors activated, displaying footage from the past few months. Humans conducting rescue operations in environments considered lethal by most species, civilian athletes casually performing feats that matched enhanced warrior capabilities, and perhaps most impressively, the recent joint training exercises that had revolutionized galactic military doctrine. Admiral Chen stepped forward, her movements precise and controlled even in the chamber's low gravity. "Honorable delegates, Earth doesn't seek to dominate or intimidate. We propose a partnership that leverages each species' unique strengths. Yes, humans can operate in conditions that challenge others, but every species here has capabilities we lack." The swarm mind of the Nexus Collective buzzed thoughtfully. "Your species trains for combat from childhood, yet we've observed no inherent aggression. You possess tremendous physical capability, yet show remarkable restraint. This puzzles us." "Perhaps," Chen replied with a slight smile, "that's precisely because we understand our capabilities. Humans don't train for combat because we seek conflict. We train because we know that strength, properly applied, can prevent conflict." Footage played of the recent Heavy World Beta rescue operation, followed by clips from joint military exercises where humans had served as trainers and force multipliers for other species' military units. "Look at what we've already accomplished together," Chen continued. The Ventari's natural climbing abilities combined with human endurance training have created rescue teams that can reach previously inaccessible areas. The Drachnid's enhanced strength paired with human tactical flexibility has revolutionized space marine operations. The Perillion's energy manipulation skills coupled with human adaptability has opened new frontiers in environmental protection. High Counselor Vex Nar's glow intensified. Yet some among us fear that this alliance could shift the balance of power too dramatically. Humans have demonstrated capabilities that frankly terrify many species. "With respect, Counselor," Chen responded, "that fear comes from misunderstanding. Yes, humans can endure conditions that challenge others. Yes, our natural capabilities might seem extreme to some species. But throughout our history, Our greatest achievements have come not from dominating others, but from protecting them. The chamber's displays shifted to show human first responders working alongside alien emergency teams, military training exercises where humans helped other species push past their perceived limitations, and scientific expeditions where human physical capabilities had enabled breakthrough discoveries. "We don't want to rule the galaxy," Chen declared, her voice carrying conviction. "We want to help protect it. Every species here has something unique to offer. Humans, we're adaptable, we're resilient, and most importantly, we're at our best when we're helping others succeed." The Drachnid fleet commander, who had witnessed the friendly competition months earlier, raised his scaled form. "I have seen humans carry twice their body weight to save others, continue working in conditions that should have incapacitated them, and treat as recreation what we consider extreme endurance tests. Yet not once have they used these abilities to intimidate or dominate. Perhaps that is exactly why they should lead this initiative." Discussion erupted throughout the chamber. Species that had initially feared humanity's capabilities were now reconsidering their positions. The evidence was clear. Humans consistently used their abilities to protect and assist, rather than to threaten or control. "There is another factor to consider," Ambassador Genro added, his crystalline form refracting light across the chamber. "Humans don't just possess remarkable physical capabilities, they have an extraordinary ability to inspire others to exceed their own limitations. In joint training exercises, we've seen other species achieve things they never thought possible, simply because their human partners believed they could." The council chamber fell silent as the implications sank in. Humanity wasn't just offering their physical capabilities, they were offering to help the entire galaxy push beyond its perceived limitations. Admiral Chen took advantage of the moment. "We propose a three-tier system. Joint emergency response teams combining human endurance with specialized alien capabilities, integrated defense forces that leverage each species' strengths, and a galactic protection initiative that ensures no world stands alone against crisis or threat." The voting was nearly unanimous. Within hours, the Galactic Defense Initiative was established, with Earth designated as the primary training hub for the new joint forces. As the session concluded, High Counselor Vexnar approached Admiral Chen privately. "You know," they said, their glow pulsing thoughtfully, "when we first discovered Earth, many feared your species would become the galaxy's greatest threat. Instead, you've become its greatest defenders." Chen smiled. "That's the thing about humans, Counselor. Our strength isn't in our muscles or our endurance. It's in our desire to use whatever capabilities we have to help others. That's what makes us who we are." As news of the Alliance spread across the galaxy, something remarkable happened. Species that had once feared humanity's Deathworld capabilities now sought out human trainers and advisors. The phrase "train like a human" became a galaxy-wide symbol of pushing past limitations to help others. And on Earth, as humans prepared to take on their new role as galactic defenders and mentors, most treated it as they did everything else. Just another challenge to overcome, another opportunity to help, another chance to show that humanity's greatest strength wasn't in their physical capabilities, but in their unwavering desire to use those capabilities for the benefit of all. The galaxy had feared humanity would become its conquerors. Instead, they had become its protectors, its teachers, and its inspiration. And somehow, that seemed exactly right.